I won't say it's unheard of, but it's very seldom or rare that the kids that do the business school deals think of or are taught or recommend that they claw back. That's something you learn when you, on your second roll-up, and you think that you got fucked on your first roll-up. You know, how can I get more of this deal? The only way is that either the deal sells for 10 or 100 times more than you thought it was going to on the first time around, which happens from time to time, it does. But you say, well, somebody that you heard about someplace else says, oh, well, fuck, I clawed back an extra 20 or 25% based on a return of capital, a return on their investment to the private equity house. Now, the big if, the big but, the big caveat is as follows. You got to perform to get a clawback. To double or triple your equity stake in the deal, you got to fucking perform. If you don't think you're going to perform, well, you shouldn't be there if you don't think you're going to perform. But it's based on performance because although it's easy to say words, yeah, we're going to give them twice their money back, and then we get this, and we're going to give them 3 times their money back. That talk's cheap. To give somebody 3 times their fucking money back is a big fucking deal. Now, the thing that I try to make more clear in the before we left the seminar room, contrary to what you guys, there's a myth, a misnomer someplace out there where you think, and I think Jay was the first to say it, when you got $100 million deal, or $100 million whatever's, and you go to private equity, and the private equity, you negotiate the deal, and let's just say that you're going to get 20%, and they're keeping 80%. They're going to fund the deal. The way you guys talk about it is that the 100% they're going to fund is with a check for $100 million. That will never happen. The way they're going to pay for that $100 million is they're going to go to Deutsche Bank, some asshole that they went to school with at Bank of America or Credit Suisse or wherever, and they're going to borrow and lever as much as they possibly can on the deal, maybe up to 100%. But let's just say they do 80%. So of the 100 million, they're going to borrow 80 million at some rate, hopefully interest no more than monthly, but probably quarterly or maybe yearly. The best deal is at the end of the deal at exit. And then they're going to write a check for 20 million, add it to the borrowed 80 million and pay for the deal. Now, why do you think the rates of return are so fucking high for a KKR or whatever? I think their annual rate for the 40 years they've been in business is something like 28%. I don't know, call it 25%. Mm-hmm. They've returned on their investment over 30, 40 years. But that return is based on the equity in their fund. Mm-hmm. But for every $1 billion equity in the fund, they're borrowing $4.5 billion. So after they reduce their rate of return by the interest that they pay on the loan, then that's the rate of return. Their rate of return, if it was just on all the money they invested, not the equity, it wouldn't be anywhere near 25%. Otherwise, the private equity firms would have all the money on the planet. Just as I say, the marketing guys that you read, why are they all poor? If marketing really worked, test small, roll out big. Every marketer that ever fucking wrote a book, or not a book anymore, did a podcast, a blog, they say test small, to see what the traffic is, and then roll out big. How come nobody's rich? If that worked, as 2 or 3 of the guys, Ted Nicholas, Jay Abraham, and a few others told me 20 years ago, if that worked, we'd have all the money on the planet in 10 years. Well, needless to say, with the greatest respect, most of them don't have a pot to piss in their window to throw it out of. But where they make their money is selling Richard. Test small and roll out big. So getting back to the private equity, they're not writing the check. They're borrowing money just like you. But it's easier for them to borrow money because they have a long track record. After you do 2, 3, 4, 5 deals, it will be much easier for you to borrow money because of the track record associated to you and or your team, hopefully your team that stays together. So, but I mean, the private equity guys, that's the game they're in. And of course now, good deals are so scarce when you get 200 or 300% of your money that they're now investing in movies, commodities, all kinds of things. And the private equity model is a third go bust, belly up, close down, bankrupt. A third break even, and a third have big rates of return. And then 1/3 or 10% of that third are the Facebooks or whatever. Because if all money invested by private equity had 20% rate of return, then again, all the private equity funds would have all the money in the world, and a lot of the private equity firms have. But I mean, I think that the total in private equity is maybe a couple $1 trillion total. All the private equity funds put together, end to end, and that's certainly not all the money in the world. It seems when you don't have any money, a couple $1 trillion seems like all the money in the world, but it's really not. When you think about Gates and Buffett and Slim, what's his name, from Mexico, that have 50, 60, 70 billion. So, I know I rambled on if I answered your question. Okay, so where are we?
So Teddy was saying is we're putting together the ones that we've already presented.
But you still have more to do.
We have the business school one.
No. Oh. So, but you haven't presented all the cases to the group.
Right, that's what we're putting together.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Good.
Yeah, that's what we're going to
And Rox has a surprise for all of us. So I now know what the surprise is. That's why, like a brother. He wanted to take me aside. The Hispanics want to take me aside, and my black brothers want to take me aside. And so he explained to me what he's going to do, and I said, fine, I was in an agreement, so it'll be interesting what he's going to present to you guys tomorrow. And it's not dissimilar to what we closed the seminar hardcore last year, or not, last Christmas with, so it's kind of an offshoot of that. So far, I mean, from the presentations that you've seen, last of which was Kira, and I mean, and you hear some animosity in the voices of some of the participants, and that animosity stroke anger is because a number of things, not the least of which they're not farther down the QLA road, 1. 2, they made some big fucking mistakes, notwithstanding me guiding them, because I can bring you to the water trough, I can even stick your bald head under the water and kind of drown you once or twice, but I can't make you stay there and drink. Okay? This is not the guy that fed everybody Kool-Aid back in the 70s and they all committed suicide, Reverend, whatever his name is, Reverend Jones. I wish it was, but it isn't. And so you hear some frustration in their voices because they see that somebody has got a similar model being presented that they've worked on 6 months, and they've already ascertained that it didn't work, and or they should pivot, and they're still finger fucking it. Because it's not easy to walk away from these deals. I understand that concept. And so I would be highly surprised, and you may or may not remember, on the opening evening, I said I would be highly surprised if we don't have a few pivots in the group, because I know where everybody is in their timeline, and I know some are way ahead of others. virtually doing the same fucking thing. And remember I said the only difference between the guys that are and gals that are on the Hall of Fame are how long they stay focused. I mean, and so anyway, so we're already getting that, and we're not even quite halfway through the experience. And some truly have it harder because of the place in the world they are, size of the markets. I use the analogy, I haven't used it recently. If you're trying to do a roll up in Panama, forgetting the communist thing, forgetting all that stuff, just looking at the land mass, you know, it's not easy because there's not that many opportunities. And forget the corruption, forget all that. Just how many people there? 3 million people, 2 million. I mean, Switzerland is probably got less people than Panama. How many people in Switzerland?
8 million.
Oh no, okay, so it's 3 times bigger. Okay, but in Panama, there's just a couple million people, and even assuming everybody's not corrupt, all those other things, you know, how many deals, for example, healthcare, are there? So anyway, okay. Any questions?
Okay, do you have questions?
Well, I know you got. I mean, just like I brushed my teeth this morning. I know you got questions. The likelihood of you not having questions is the same likelihood I didn't brush my teeth, which I can't imagine me not brushing my teeth in the morning. But except for when I was in the military, out in the field, you know, dodging bullets, you don't think about brushing your teeth. But
if an EBITDA is negative, is it next?
Almost there, and I won't say 100%, but almost 100% of the time. It's not worth it.
Okay. Can you tell by looking at financial statements that they're doing accrual-based accounting?
I can't. Maybe somebody. I'm not an accountant, but no. I can't. Sally probably can, but I can't.
I'll ask Sally maybe.
Yeah.
What's the difference between an investment bank?
Okay. Does everybody know what he just asked me? Accrual versus cash? Okay. Ask that question in the group. Okay. Because you can, like, here at Guthrie Castle, we're on a cash basis.
Accounting.
Yeah. Accrual is when you get an invoice, it's income to you. Cash is when you get cash, it's income to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's benefits, and I'm not really. To me, cash is king. I mean, money talks and bullshit walks. But I don't see why I should be paying fucking taxes just because this asshole sent me an invoice. It seems ass backwards to me. When I pay all the tax I'm supposed to, you pay me cash. But there's 2 different methods of accounting, accrual and cash. And I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason why somebody picks accrual and somebody picks cash. I don't know that. Sally would be a good one to ask that question.